Hey everyone, Theo here. Today I will compare the 14.6-inch Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 Ultra with the 12.4-inch Tab S9 Plus. I do not have the 11-inch Tab S9 tablet, unfortunately. So I will go through the differences with the physical design, and we will open some apps, including drawing apps, and see how those apps look on the bigger and the smaller display. And hopefully this video will help you decide which size to get. So let's look at the physical design first. The bezels on the Plus model seems to be slightly thicker, and there is no camera notch, and there is only one camera here, whereas there are two cameras here on the Tab S9 Ultra. The resolution is slightly higher on the Ultra model. The pixel density is 240 ppi, and for this model it's 266 ppi. Technically speaking, this should have sharper visuals, but from what I can see, they are both really sharp. On the home screen, the icons and the text look slightly smaller, but everything is still very legible. So let's open some web pages to let you see how the web pages look. So this is the news report from Samsung, and I can see that the number of words in the line are the same. So it's just the text is slightly smaller, but this text is still big enough for reading, still comfortable enough for reading. Let's go to this website called The Verge. Okay, so this is the portrait view, and I can see there is slightly more content here due to the higher resolution, so you can see one extra line here. But other than that, the layout is identical when displaying this particular website in portrait orientation. Let's switch to landscape orientation. So on the Ultra model, I can see one extra line of text here and one extra story. But on the Plus model, the line of text is missing, it's below. And one story is missing here, and it's below. This is the Guardian website. I can see one extra line of text at the bottom. And the layout, when in landscape orientation, can sometimes differ depending on how the website decides to format the page. Here it looks almost identical. Next we have Amazon. Looks identical to me. This is Twitter or x.com, and I can see a difference. So here we have three columns, 1, 2, 3, and this column on the left side is expanded, whereas on the Plus model, this column here is collapsed, so this is smaller. But other than that, the size of the content seems to be quite similar. Next we have Instagram, and with Instagram, this column on the left side is also collapsed, and here you can see the text beside the icon for this column. This is the Samsung newsletter. Okay, so let me just overlay this tablet on top of the Ultra model to let you see how much bigger the Ultra model is. So it's bigger by this much and this much. I actually use the Tab S9 Ultra and the S8 Ultra in portrait orientation quite often because of the extra resolution with the width here. The text is actually bigger, so it's more comfortable to use this in portrait orientation compared to the 12.4-inch in portrait orientation, even though the text is still big enough, but it's bigger on the Ultra model. So if you like to use your tablets in portrait orientation, I would recommend you go with the Ultra model. Now for the weight, this is the Wi-Fi model. This weighs 732 grams. So for a tablet at this size, this is considered lightweight. This is portable, yes, but not as portable compared to the 12.4-inch, which is not as portable compared to the 11-inch. This is 582 grams, if I remember correctly. Anyway, the difference between these two in weight is about 150 grams. And if you are going to use a case on the tablets, this is going to be much heavier because you will be using a bigger case on this bigger tablet. This is the Instagram app. So the images look big and bigger. Yeah, this looks great. Let's go to the Instagram homepage. I haven't been using Instagram for a long time because there are now so many ads. Yep, so for scrolling, the experience is kind of similar. This is the Twitter app. Looks identical. So this is Twitter in landscape orientation, which does not look good at all because everything is cropped off. You can go into the Samsung settings under advanced features, labs, landscape view for portrait apps. You can select Twitter, and when you quit Twitter and relaunch it again, it should, well, it doesn't work. Now, it should actually present that handphone format for you, but it doesn't work here for some reason, but it works for Instagram. If you're wondering about the notch and how annoying it is, well, it will take some time to get used to, and it doesn't really affect functionality or anything. It's just there. So let's open some drawing apps to have a look at the user interface. This is Infinite Painter, and on the home screen I can see 3 rows of artworks. Let me scroll to the right side, and now I can see more artworks. Let's open up an artwork to have a look. So the user interface for this app is very minimalist, so even on a smaller tablet such as the 12.4 inch or the 11 inch, you will still get a lot of space to work with for drawing. The smaller tablets are still very comfortable to work with for drawing. On the 14.6 inch display, this size is just massive for drawing. And this size is actually good for apps that have more user interface elements. So if I have the palette on the right side, yeah, this doesn't take up much space as well. I mean, this palette is kind of small. And if I have the color palette on the display, yeah, this is still a good amount of space to work with for drawing. It's just that you get even more space on the Ultra model for drawing. This is Clip Studio Paint with more user interface elements, and at a glance I can see the canvas area here for drawing is just much bigger. So let me just have more palettes on the screen. Let me expand this and have another column of palettes here. So yeah, this space is definitely bigger compared to this space here. By the way, the physical size of this tablet is almost the same size as an A4 size paper. And with the 12.4 inch, let me just put this tablet on top. You can see the A4 paper is much bigger. So if you have A4 paper at home, this is pretty much the same size as the Ultra model. It's just that the Ultra model is slightly wider. Yep, by this much. Let me switch to a different workspace. Let me switch to the comic workspace. From what I can see, because there is more resolution here, I can see more brushes. I can actually see more brushes displayed here. So there is more height to show more brushes and to show more options here. And if you have the layers palette here, you will be able to see more layers as well. Here I actually have the color wheel. Let me just remove this. Yep. So I have more space for the layers palette to show more layers. This is Kritar, and again the canvas drawing area is bigger on the Ultra model, even with the palettes on the left and right side. The size of the text and the icons look big enough even on the 12.4 inch tablet, and unfortunately I do not have the 11-inch tablet, so I can't tell you how big those icons and the text are on the 11-inch tablet. Let's go back to Clip Studio again to look at how big the text is, and yes, the text and the icons look big enough. This is the 12.4-inch Tab S9 Plus. So if you're going to hold the tablet like this to draw without resting the tablet on a table or on any surfaces, this to me is still a bit heavier compared to the 11-inch. So if you have plans to use your tablet as a digital sketch pad, if you want to bring this outdoors often to sketch on location, to work in cafes, I would recommend you go with the 11-inch and the 12.4-inch model. Now this is still manageable, but I would prefer to rest this on a table. If you have a case on the tablet and you're holding the tablet like this, it's going to be quite heavy. And this is still fine, and if you hold it in portrait orientation, it actually feels better, because when you have it in landscape orientation, most of the weight goes to this side, but when you have it in portrait orientation, most of the weight is actually still closer to your hand. So this is actually quite comfortable, or should I say comfortable enough to hand hold it and draw. This is the Ultra model, which is heavier. I don't think you will be able to hold the tablet in one hand like this and draw or write for long periods of time. You will definitely need to set this down on a table or on some surface to work with. And I usually have this tablet on a stand when I am drawing. Even if you hold this in portrait orientation, it's still kind of heavy, and it's going to be even heavier with a case on it. I can still see the notch there, which is fine. After a while, you'll just get used to it. Now the bezels on this is thinner, and there is actually not much space for your thumb to grip onto the tablet. But this is not an issue, because chances are you will be setting this down on your table, so it doesn't really matter how thin that bezel is. I mean, it's still big enough for your thumb to hold without the thumb going into the display to activate shortcuts. Let's look at split screen mode and multitasking. Let's open up the web browser. Let's drag the gallery app to the right side. Okay, let me just open up the same folder here and remove the sidebar. And from what I can see, yeah, definitely the pages here and the gallery here are larger. And I can see more content. Definitely I'm able to see more content here. You can see all the files here, whereas the animals are hidden below. And if I reduce the size here, yes, I can see everything, but the images here are larger. Let's drag another app here to the bottom. That is YouTube. And yeah, so everything just looks bigger here. You can definitely use split screen mode on the 12.4-inch model quite comfortably. The size of the text and the visuals still look big enough. It's just more satisfying on a bigger display. Let's look at note-taking. The advantage of the Ultra model for note-taking is when you zoom out to see all your notes, you can see the text is bigger, slightly bigger compared to the 12.4-inch and the 11-inch model. As for the space for writing, personally for me, I can write comfortably on the 12.4 or the 11-inch, because this is still a lot of space for writing. But on the Ultra tablet, this is perhaps too much space for writing. So the advantage here really is when you zoom out, you can see the text at larger sizes. For note-taking, you can go with 11-inch, 12.4-inch, no problem. Let's talk about gaming. One thing that affects usability is where the controls are placed on the game. For example, with this game, Dead Cells, the movement controls are actually not fixed at a single location. They can move around, which is great. However, for the option or attack buttons, they are spaced further apart here on the Ultra model and spaced closer together on the Plus model. So on the Ultra model, you will have to stretch your thumb by quite a bit to reach those buttons, whereas on the Plus model, the buttons are closer together, so they are easier to reach. So obviously, with usability in mind, this Plus model is better when it comes to gaming. Let's look at Genshin Impact. So the movement control is here at the bottom left, but it's fixed at this location. However, you can actually have your finger outside of the movement control to move your character. And the attack buttons are here at the bottom right, and they are spaced. Oops, let me just run away first. And the buttons are spaced quite close together, so if you want to hold this Ultra model while gaming, you can do so, and you can reach the buttons easily. On the Plus model, the movement control is here as well, and the attack buttons are on the right side, and they are spaced close together. So in this case, the controls are spaced on the left side and on the right side. So this game, in my opinion, has better placement for the controls and is very enjoyable while playing. So with a smaller display, it still looks great, but with a bigger display while playing games, it does feel more immersive and more satisfying. The Plus model, in my opinion, is more comfortable to hold with two hands while gaming. And this applies to the Tab S9 11-inch model as well. Gaming on the Ultra model is more enjoyable, that's for sure. However, this tablet is around 150 grams heavier compared to the Plus model. It's still manageable when gaming with two hands, although if you have a case on this tablet, it's going to be much heavier. I would say it's probably better to just put this on a stand and game with your controller. It's going to be more comfortable if you have intention to play for long periods of time. I use my tablets as external wireless displays quite often, and I feel like it is better to get a display that is bigger if you have plans to use this as an external display quite often. And this works really well. I love the 16:10 aspect ratio, which matches the 16:10 aspect ratio of this laptop. And this is about 15.6 or 16 inch, so the size difference is not too different between the two. So let me disconnect this Ultra tablet and connect the smaller 12.4 inch tablet. So I've just connected the 12.4 inch Tab S9 Plus, and you can see the size is much smaller compared to this 16 inch display. And because the size is smaller, you may have to increase the UI scaling so that the text is bigger. And if you do that, you will have less desktop space to show more content. So I do prefer using the Ultra model for use as an external wireless display. And let me show you the size difference again. So this is 14.6 inch against a 16 inch laptop, and this is 12.4 inch against a 16 inch laptop. This is how SamsungDex looks if you run it on the tablet itself and not on an external display. So let's open some apps and see how the apps look. I have already rearranged the apps, and as you can see, SamsungDex or the desktop user interface, it's definitely more productive on a larger display. You can display the windows at larger sizes, which is just better to work with. But this size, this 12.4 inch tablet is still usable for SamsungDex. However, for the 11-inch model, there will be limitation due to the physically smaller size. So I recommend you go with this or the Ultra if you want to use SamsungDex on the tablet. If you want to use SamsungDex with an external display, I don't think it matters which tablet size you get, because let's say you're using a Samsung phone with external display, SamsungDex is going to work fine. It's just that with a tablet, it's going to be more productive because you have a much bigger screen compared to a phone. I think I've pretty much covered almost everything I wanted to say. I forgot to look at the back, which looks identical. Oh, by the way, the Ultra model is thinner compared to the Plus model. This tablet is surprisingly thin, and the battery life for both is good. I mean, with the Ultra model, I can get about 9-10 hours. I've not tested the Plus model extensively yet, but this, according to the specs, should have pretty good battery life as well. Alright, to conclude, I would say if you use drawing apps that have a lot of user interface elements, go with the Ultra model, because even with those palettes by the side, it will still get a good amount of space, canvas space to work with for drawing. And with some of those apps such as Clip Studio, Krita, you really do want those palettes by the side because it will let you work much faster. If you want to use your tablet as a wireless external display, I would recommend you go with at least 12.4 or 14.6 inch, which is going to be much more satisfying to use. And if you use SamsungDex, you can actually use it with an external display, in which case it doesn't matter which tablet size you get. But if you want to use SamsungDex on the tablet itself, go with the 14.6 inch or the 12.2 inch. I would recommend you go with the larger display because SamsungDex works better on a larger display. If you guys have other questions regarding the Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 tablets, let me know in the comment section below. And also let me know what other types of videos you want me to make with this tablet. I hope this video is useful. See you guys in the next video. Bye.